Hello everyone, happy Tuesday and welcome to another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. This is Lena Grossa from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada, and I am an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator, and I'm super excited to share with you today these 3 cute cards made with the Seasonal Wreaths stamp set from the new holiday catalog. Now, I don't know about you, but stamp sets that will do multi-use are really, really big in my book. Anytime I can get a stamp set that I can use for more than one occasion, or 2 or 3 even, makes it a must-have in my book. Hi, Elfie. How are you doing? Now, let me just bring in the Seasonal Wreath stamp set. This is one that's kind of hidden in the holiday catalog and very easy to miss. But it is a great add-on to one of the other bundles that is in the catalog. So this Seasonal Wreath stamp set includes this lovely wreath image and then several other sort of different seasonal images, as well as some sentiments. Hi Debbie, how are you? Now I'm going to show you where to find this in the catalog. Believe it or not, it is on the very last page of the catalog before we get to the host stamp sets. So host stamp sets are here. So this is on page 59 of the holiday catalog. So it's way down here. Super easy to miss if you don't get that far or if you're skipping ahead to the host sets. But it is a super versatile stamp set. And I'm going to show you also how it coordinates with another suite or bundle really in the catalog. And that is the Tidings All Around. So Tidings All Around is a stamp set and set of dies. Let me just flip to the dies here, right here, that coordinate and are available in a bundle in the Twal Tidings suite, right at the front of the catalog. Oh, hi Kath, how are you doing? So this is an awesome bundle. I'm actually going to be featuring it next week. But you can increase the versatility of this bundle by adding the Seasonal Wreaths stamp set to it. So you effectively would have 2 stamp sets that coordinate with the same set of dies. Okay, so there are the dies. Now, let me just be clear that these 2 are not available as a bundle. Okay, this set of dies is available as a bundle with the stamp set that is part of the Twal Tidings suite, which is right here. Let me go back to it, called Tidings All Around. And again, I'm going to be featuring this one next week. Okay, but if you are purchasing that bundle, this stamp set is a great add-on to just increase the versatility of that bundle and get use out of it all season long. Or all year long, really. Okay, so let me get some things out of the way here. We're going to make these 3 cards today. And these 2 I purposely did with the exact same layout. Hi, Julie. How are you doing? To show you just how easy it is to change up the look of this set for multiple seasons, right? So here we have a fall card. Here we have a spring card. So I'm actually going to start with this fall one and show you how I put it together. Once you see how this one's done, this one's going to be a piece of cake. So let me grab my basket of goodies here and set some things aside, get these cards out of the way. Alrighty. Thanks for sharing, Julie. I really appreciate you sharing every week. Means a lot to me. All right, so I have already gone ahead and stamped and die cut the wreath. Now I want to talk about this for just a minute. So I have stamped and heat embossed this in, I stamped it in Versamark and then heat embossed it in copper, okay? So it gives that nice sheen to it. You can see it on the finished project. It looks really pretty, okay? And then I colored the stamped image with my Stampin' Blend. So I'm going to show you the colors that I used. The reason I went ahead and did this ahead of time is not because it's terribly difficult, but just because I didn't want you to have to sit there and watch me color because it can take a little while. Okay, so I used my dark and light Cajun Craze markers. I used my dark pumpkin pie, my dark cherry cobbler, my light mossy meadow, and my dark daffodil delight. So that is my fall color palette. And then I also used a little bit of the dark crumb cake. Okay, so that is the color palette that I used to color my wreath. So I also want to mention something. I'm just going to show you really quick a really important feature of this stamp and the dies, because it will make your life much easier if you are aware of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and stamp the wreath image. I just got some garden green ink here, or not garden green, granny apple green. This is the green that I used on the spring version of this card. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp the wreath. Now, before I stamp it, I want to show you, to see this little point here at the top of the stamp? I'm hoping that shows without the glare there. See this little point right here? You want to take note of where, which direction that is pointing to when you stamp. Okay, so I'm going to stamp this on my cardstock with that little sort of point there at the top. Okay, the reason that is important is when we go to die cut this, we want to make sure, hi Jill, thank you so much for sharing, I so appreciate it. We want to make sure this little arrow on the die is in the same direction as the arrow was on the stamp. So if you recall, I stamped with the arrow pointing upwards, and that way when I go to line up my die, do you see how easy that is? Lines up super quick and easy. If you don't keep track of where that little arrow is, you will be sitting here for hours trying to figure out how to match this up. Okay, so that is just a little tip and a little way that Stampin' Up! Has made lining up the die and the stamped image a little bit easier. Okay, all right. That was an important thing to make sure I told you, because I don't want you buying this and then cursing me for the hours that you have to spend trying to figure out how to get it to cut. All right, so to put this card together, I have another piece of the gorgeous Come to Gather DSP. This is the suite that I was featuring the last couple of weeks. And so this is the one that has the pumpkins on one side and this beautiful Cajun Craze and Merry Merlot sort of foliage on the back. And we are going to build our card. So I have here my stamped and die cut wreath that is going to go onto my card with some dimensionals. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and pop a couple of dimensionals on here. You just want to make sure you put, if you're using large dimensionals, you want to make sure you put them where they're going to get hidden and not be seen. You could of course use smaller dimensionals and you wouldn't have to worry too much about it. Now I also see this little bit here. I didn't quite get enough Versamark there, so my embossing powder isn't great, but that's okay because we can hide it. So I'm just going to put this down on the my DSP. Now this DSP was cut to 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, 4 by 5 1/4. And then here I have this little banner. So this is cut using another set of dies in the holiday catalog. It's actually the other die set that is from the 12 Tidings suite. And the dies are called Christmas Cardinal. So they're the ones that cut out that beautiful cardinal image. Hey Donna, how you doing? How's school going? Donna is one of my oldest friends, not old age-wise, but longest standing friends from university, and she is also a teacher, so we are both in the throes of back to school these days. All right, now I have to grab, did I grab my early espresso? No, I didn't. Hang on, I gotta get my early espresso ink. There we go. Okay, so I want to show you something else that I did, and you guys have probably seen me do this before. So we have these beautiful sentiments in this stamp set, and sometimes we only want to use part of a sentiment, right? Nope, not calling you old. If you're old, I'm old too. So we have this grateful for your kindness sentiment, but I only want to use the word grateful. Now there are a couple of ways that we could do that. I could take a Stampin' Write marker and just ink the grateful, which is totally easy to do. However, I like to use these in classes and card buffets, and sometimes people don't want to take the time for this. So I actually did surgery on my stamp and cut the grateful apart from the for your kindness. So now I have just the word grateful, and then it's easy to ink it up. I'm just gonna ink it up with my early espresso, and I'm gonna stamp it on my little banner just like that. Easy peasy, right? Hey Sandy, how you doing? Okay, now I am not quite ready. We're gonna add some little leaves and whatnot here, but that's gonna go onto my card like that. Okay, so here I have a couple more a couple of little leaves that I die cut using the Gathered Leaves die. So I featured these last week, and we are going to just add them sort of to one side of our little banner like that, just with a couple of glue dots, assuming I brought glue dots over here. So we're going to go one sort of here, and then another one down towards the bottom like this. Okay, just like that. And then I have a couple of these little twigs. Now I love, this is one of my very favorite dies in the catalog. Little things like this, I love little bits and pieces that I can use to add interest to my design. So this is this die here. It cuts out both twigs at once. So you just run it through once and you get both of those little shapes. So we're going to add them again just to add some texture. Now you want to be really careful when you're picking these up. So I've just pressed it onto a glue dot and I'm going to pick up the whole thing with my fingernail because it is very easy to tear these. They're very fine and delicate. So we're going to grab this one. If it doesn't stick to my thumb, there we go. We're going to tuck this one kind of in behind here like that. Okay, so now I have my little arrangement. Now I'm ready to stamp and color my little bird. So the bird is included in the stamp set as well. And he's just the cutest little thing ever. Now, the only thing about this is, hi Claire, how are you doing? This little guy does not have a die to cut him out. So we're going to have to fussy cut, but don't worry. He's really easy and we're not even going to have to worry about trying to cut around those little bitty bird legs because we're going to just chop them off. We're going to chop off the bird's legs. All right. So here I have my dark and light crumb cake. I have stamped the bird in early espresso. So I'm going to go ahead and color the entire bird with the exception of the beak in the light crumb cake. Okay, so I'm just coloring the whole birdie in the light, just like that. Okay. Then I'm going to come in with my dark and I'm going to add some shadow sort of along the bottom edge and along under his wing and just kind of following some of the feather markings that are on the stamp image. And then again, I'm going to come in and blend those out with my light marker. Okay, and that's just going to give some texture and shadow to my little birdie here. Okay, I'm not even worrying too much about staying inside the lines because I'm going to be cutting them out. Okay, the last little touch is to take my dark Daffodil Delight and just give him a little yellow beak there, just to add a touch of color. Okay, and that's all there is to it. Then we are going to cut him out. So, a couple of tips. First of all, when you're fussy cutting, most important thing is having a good pair of scissors, right? You want some nice, sharp scissors. I prefer scissors that have a point right to the end, okay? Our paper snips in the catalog are really great scissors. That's all I use. But if you have another pair of sort of fine blade scissors that are nice and sharp, fussy cutting is made so much easier. If you're trying to cut with big old clunky household scissors, you will find you'll get frustrated really easily. So I'm just kind of coming around here. I'm not going to worry about cutting around his legs because they're going to get hidden. So again, I'm just kind of coming around and cutting out my little bird there. Okay, that's all there is to it. Then I'm going to tuck him in. So here's my little banner again. I'm going to just kind of tuck him in just there, sort of behind the banner and in amongst the leaves there. Okay, so I'm going to add a little glue dot to my little birdie and I'm going to tuck him in. Oh, we're going to tuck him in right about there. Okay, and then he's kind of nestled in amongst the leaves. All right, and then I'm ready to go ahead and adhere that to the front of my card. And you're going to notice this bit that I had that wasn't embossed all that nicely doesn't even matter because you can't even see it. Oh, and he's already sticking. Look at, he knows where he belongs, this little bird. So what I'm doing is I'm adding glue dots on either end of my banner, and it's actually going to stick to the wreath, which you will recall we popped up with some dimensionals. Okay, so that's going to go on like that. We're ready to add this to our card base. My card base is 4 1/4 by 11. This is early espresso cardstock, and I've scored it in the middle at 5 1/2. So we'll fold this in half along our score line and add a bit of adhesive to the back of our DSP panel. And we're going to pop this right on the front of our card base here, just like that. Okay, and then my last little touch is a double twine bow. So you have seen me do one of these before. This is some of that yummy Cajun Craze linen thread from the Come to Gather suite. And I have a double width. So I've just taken and folded it over on itself. Okay, I am going to make a loop in my right hand, so it's a double loop. See, I have a double thickness of the twine there. And then I'm going to take the tail and wrap it around and bring it through. Just like that. Okay. And then I'm going to adjust the size of my loops like this. And again, when we're doing a double bow, we want one of our loops to be just a little bit smaller than the other. And that way it accentuates the fact that we have a double bow. Otherwise, it's kind of easy to lose the two layers because the thread is quite fine. Okay, so there's my bow. And now I'll trim my tails. Get this guy out of the way. And then to glue this on, we're going to just take a glue dot, kind of roll it with our thumbnail, and then press the knot of that bow right into the glue dot, and then pop it onto the front of our card, just like that. Easy peasy. Wasn't that easy? Quick, quick, quick. Now I'll just show you really quickly what I did on the inside of this one. So I added a whisper white panel because this is quite dark cardstock. So this panel is 4 by 5¼ inches. I've stamped the full Grateful Sentiment in early espresso ink, and then I stamped and colored another little bird down there. Okay, really, really simple, but really cute. So that is card number 1. Set that aside, and I'm going to bring in the spring version of this card. So it's essentially the exact same card, but all I have done is change up the color scheme, and I changed the sentiment from grateful to celebrate. So let's get this one out of the way, and we're going to bring in our next one, which is right here. All right, so again, I have gone ahead and stamped and colored the wreath. This time, I actually stamped it in the Granny Apple Green ink. And believe it or not, that ink is just fine to color with the blends, okay? So it doesn't bleed, it doesn't run. You can stamp in the Granny Apple Green and color with your blends, and it looks beautiful, okay? So again, some of our classic inks will work with the alcohol markers. So the way to figure out what works and what doesn't is to just experiment, right? You play around with it a little bit. Try stamping in one color and coloring with your blends and seeing how the ink reacts, okay? So I wanted a softer look. I didn't want to stamp in black. So the Granny Apple Green was just perfect. And that wreath suddenly has gone from fall to spring, just by changing the color scheme, which is kind of amazing if you think about it. All right, so here, instead of using that beautiful Come Together paper, I have a piece of purple Posy gingham. So this is from the In Color 6x6 designer paper stacks. And the purple Posy, now that's one of our ink colors that was causing some problems and still has been. We're all waiting for the ink pad to be released. The good news is that it is in production, so they are coming soon. They're just waiting till they have enough stock before they turn on the number. Okay, so it is coming soon. If you've been waiting for your purple Posy ink pad, like the rest of us, you will have it before too long. All right, which is awesome news. Okay, so just like I did on the last card, I'm going to add some dimensionals to the back of my wreath and adhere it to my gingham. Okay, now this time I have a little white banner, same die set that I used to cut it. And again, I have taken my Celebrate Your Day sentiment and I have performed an amputation. Okay, so the stamp actually goes like this. It's a long stamp. So I chopped off Your Day and we're just going to stamp the Celebrate. Okay, and we're going to use Crumb Cake ink, which I think I also forgot to bring over. Wowza. This is why I should not be allowed to do this when I'm tired. Last night when I was getting everything ready, I was really, really tired. I had to be up early this morning for a band practice, and yeah, sometimes it gets the better of me. All right, so I have my Celebrate sentiment. I'm going to stamp it right on my little banner here, and again, I'm doing this, that's not bad, off to the side, so it can be a little bit tricky. And then I also have this cute little flower. So this is another image. Woo! Get rid of that from the stamp set, this little flower here, and I'm just going to add that just sort of the bottom of my little banner here. Okay, I'm not going to worry about this because I'm going to put another bow there, but that'll just fill in that space that is left. And I'm going to stick this, I'm going to lose my stamps. I got all these little bits and pieces of stamps here. I'm afraid they're going to get lost in the shuffle. All right, I'm going to move my crumb cake ink out of the way. And here I have same 2 leaves as the last project, but this time they're cut from Granny Apple Green. And again, I'm going to adhere them to the back of my banner. So we'll go 1 and 2. Okay, really simple. And then I have a couple of little twigs. This time they're cut from Crumb Cake. Again, I wanted a softer color palette for this one. Don't you wish it were spring that were coming instead of winter? I sure do. I am not really, I love fall, but I don't like what follows it. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. I'm not a big fan of winter. So we'll add this guy right in here, okay? And then we're going to stamp another bird, but this time we're going to color him as a robin. So I'm going to show you how I did that. So I'll bring back my crumb cake ink and my little birdie stamp, and we'll stamp him. And this time I'm going to use the same ink, or same markers. I'm going to use my light and dark crumb cake, but I'm going to add some light real red. Okay, so I'm going to put just a little bit of the light real red kind of along his chest here. He's our little robin redbreast, right? And I might do a little bit higher there, otherwise we won't be able to see it very much of him. And we're going to add, or color the rest of him with the exception of the beak in the light crumb cake. Okay, and I'm actually kind of going over the red as I do this because I want to blend that in as much as possible. Okay, so we're just going to color him in just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to come in with my dark again, and we'll just add a little bit of shadow to his wings and just a little bit to his body there. And again, we're going to blend that out. Okay, and again, I'm going to blend that red, and I want it to blend a little bit with the crumb cake so that it's just a little bit softer and we don't have a really stark red there. Okay, and then I'm also going to bring in my dark Daffodil Delight and just give him a little yellow beak again. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead and cut him out just like we did on the last card. So just trimming around his tail. Another tip for fussy cutting that those of you who have watched me before will know is when we're fussy cutting, we want to try to move the paper as much as possible rather than the scissors. Okay, that just gives us a cleaner cut and gives us a little bit more control when we're cutting. Cut him out of there, and then we'll cut right around his body here. So not having a die for this guy is no big deal because he's pretty easy to cut out. There we go. So we'll get that out of the way. And just like we did on the last card, we're going to take a glue dot and nestle him in amongst the leaves here. Tuck him in right there. Isn't he a cute little robin? Oh, love him. All right, now he's ready to go on to our wreath, just like last time. So we'll add a glue dot on either end of our banner. And we'll pop that on here. Now I just realized I forgot to tell you what colors I use, and I also forgot to color my flower. So we're going to color our flower here. I'm going to use my light purple Posy on the petals. So we're just going to color just the petals. Now I didn't do any shading on this because it's quite a small image, so I didn't really worry about shading it at all. There we go. And then I use my light granny apple green. I keep wanting to say garden green on the leaves. Okay, and then a little bit of light Daffodil Delight on the center. Okay, and that's all there is to that. Now I'll just quickly show you my color scheme, or my color palette rather, for coloring the wreath. Okay, so I have light and dark purple Posy. I have light and dark Granny Apple Green. I have light Daffodil Delight, And I have light and dark Calypso Coral. I actually have a duplicate of Daffodil Delight there, but that was my color scheme for coloring the wreath. Okay, nice spring palette. All right. Okay, so now back to putting this card together. Here, I decided to orient my card base differently. So this card base is 5.5 by 8.5. It's scored in the middle at 4 1/4. So I'm going to fold it in half along my score line. And add a little bit of adhesive to the back of my DSP. And we'll pop this onto the front of our card. Just like that. Okay, and then again we're going to do a little twine bow again. This time it's just from some plain linen thread. So this is the natural linen thread that's in the annual catalog. So same deal, I have a double thickness of the thread. I'm going to fold it or make a loop, hold it between my thumb and index finger of my right hand, bring the tail around and through, and then adjust the size of my loops by pulling on the tails, just like that. And then again, I want to make one loop just a little bit smaller than the other on each side. And that gives me a cute little double bow. And then again, I'm going to trim my tails. I'll get this out of the way. And we'll add a glue dot. Oopsie, that one came off on my thumb, but that's okay. We'll put the glue dot where we want our bow to go. And then press the bow into it. Okay, super quick and easy. Now my bird's looking a little cockeyed there. I fixed him. He was looking a little drunken. Okay, on the inside. Oh, I didn't do anything on the inside of this one. Ha! Use your imagination. Do whatever you like on the inside of this one. Okay? All right, so that's our spring card. Now it's time for a winter or holiday card. And this one has some fun sponging. So this is a very different look. So we didn't use the wreath image at all on this one. We actually used some of the other images that are included in the stamp set. Whoopsie. Everything's scrambling around here today. Okay, let me grab my goodies. And we'll get rid of this sticky note, which is, I don't even know if that's in the view or not. All right, so here we go. Got all our little bits and pieces. So we are going to create this beautiful sponge background, and then we're going to add some die cuts to create this pretty frosty Christmas card. Okay. All right. So we're going to start with a piece of Whisper White cardstock. Thanks, Donna. Glad you like it. This is 4 by 5 1/4 inches. Okay. Just plain old Whisper White. And I have, now if I had Purple Posy ink, I would probably use Purple Posy as well, but as I just said, it's not quite ready yet. So I'm going to use Highland Heather and Seaside Spray. Now, isn't that just a frosty color combination just looking at it? I love it. All right, so I'm going to start with a little bit of Seaside Spray. And I'm going to take a sponge dauber. Oops, make sure I've got the, I had to get a new dauber. My Seaside Spray dauber was quite destroyed. And I am going to start daubing on some of this Seaside Spray. Now, when you are adding ink, okay, when you are blending ink, you want to make sure you are working in a circular motion, okay? You want to start with your dauber off the edge and come onto the paper, okay? If we don't, we start like this and do that. Just see what happens? We get a big splot of ink, which is not so nice when we're trying to blend, okay? So we always start off the edge, get our dauber moving, and then come on to the paper. All right, now I can put as much or as little of the Seaside Spray as I want, but I think this is looking pretty good. So I've just kind of done like a little bit of an arc of the Seaside Spray, okay? So far, so good. We're gonna close that up and set it aside, and then I'm gonna grab my Highland Heather and a dauber, and I'm going to cover the rest of the white with the Highland Heather. So again, you'll notice I'm always starting off the edge and coming on so as to make sure I don't get a big splotch, perfectly round dauber mark of ink. Okay, and you'll notice here that I'm not going quite as uniform. Okay, I've got some dark areas and some lighter areas, and that's on purpose. That's just to add a little bit of depth. Okay, so you'll see my edges are darker, the inner part is a little bit lighter. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing up here. Okay, always starting off the edge And then coming on, I'm also overlapping that Seaside spray. So wherever it contacts, you see how I'm coming over the Seaside spray and blending it out. And that gives a really nice shade of, well, it's a purpley blue, really. It's kind of a cool combination, those two, when you blend them. All right, I'm sorry if my camera's shaking. I do have to apply a little bit of pressure when I'm sponging here. Hope I'm not making anybody seasick. Sorry, Donna. I know you get seasick. You're as bad as I am. So we're just going to blend this out. And again, I want to vary my shading. I don't want it all to be the same shade. Okay, so I'm just kind of going over and blending that ink. Blending and sponging is one of my favorite things to do. I love the different looks that you can get by blending different shades of ink. And you see how I had a dark splotch there? I was too busy talking and I wasn't paying attention. That's okay. We can work with it. It'll happen. All right. So there we go. Now, the really important thing. Sorry, Donna. I'm done. Well, not quite. I'm almost done. Look away. Look away. I'm going to come back. This is an important step when you're blending color. Okay. So remember how we started with the Seaside spray. Then we went to the Highland Heather. I'm going to come back to the Seaside spray. So it's my lightest shade. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to overlap I'm going to come back over with the Seaside spray. And that's just going to really blend those two colors together. All right. So far, so good. I hope so. I'm going to actually take my Seaside spray up a little bit here. There. We'll just kind of soften that down a little bit. I'm not liking quite how stark it is. We're going to just move that out just a bit. There we go. Okay. All good? Okay, Donnie, you can look again. I'm done sponging. All right, now I have the snowflake image. I'll just show you it on the stamp set because it's hard to see when they're photopolymer. So this is my snowflake image. And I could do a series of these in a circle to create a wreath of snowflakes. That is totally a possibility. But for this, I'm actually just going to stamp my snowflakes kind of like it's like they're carried on a gust of wind. So I'm going to follow that shape that I sponged. So I'm just kind of coming around here with my snowflakes and I'm kind of stamping around that blue that we laid down. Isn't that pretty? Oh, love it. Love it, love it, love it. All right, next we are going to add some die cuts to our background. So that is essentially our sponge background, but we're going to add some snowflakes that are die cut with the sparkle glimmer paper. Now, these are new dies that are in the holiday catalog. They're called Christmas layers, and they're easy to miss, and I will show you where they are in the catalog in a minute or two. But I'm actually going to be featuring them later on in the fall, but I'll show you quick in case you want to get your hands on them sooner than that. So I've just gone ahead and die cut these, and I have added a little bit of adhesive sheet to the back. Now, these adhesive sheets are no longer available. They were in the catalog last year, and I loaded up on them because I know how helpful they are when dealing with detailed die cuts. Okay, so I have a whole stash of them. In fact, I'm probably the reason that they sold out. But if you don't have any of them, you can certainly glue these die cuts down with little teeny dabs of Tombow, which is our liquid glue. The fine tip glue will work. Also, with this paper, you could even use the shimmery crystal effects. And that way, if you have any glue ooze, it'll just look like part of the design because it's sparkly and pretty. So I'm just getting rid of all the little bits and bobs here that my die left behind. When using the adhesive sheets, it's a little bit harder to use your die brush and get those little tidbits out. So I am just getting rid of them. Right now they're stuck to my fingers. There we go. And so I find the easiest thing to do is to just press it onto my finger, and then when I pull my finger off, the little bits stick, and it's easier to peel them off. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and add our die cut. So we'll put one kind of coming down here on an angle, and these little bits that are extending off the edge we're actually going to trim. So I'm just going to press that into place. So those adhesive sheets, what they effectively do is they turn your die cut into a sticker, right? So that makes it easy to glue that down without having to fuss with liquid glue. And then I have another one that I'm also going to add. Peel this off of here. There we go. And again, we got to get rid of all of our little bits and bobs. This one came off a little bit better than the last one did. So again, if you just kind of stick the die cut onto your fingers, the little, they call them chads. Did you know that? Those little bits that are left when you die cut, they're called chads. I don't know how they got that name. Anybody know how they got that name? I have no idea. All right, so we're going to get rid of those last couple of bits. There we go. And then this guy is going to get stuck on sort of down here. Okay, right about there. And we'll press him into place. I'm going to get rid of these last little bits on my fingers. Okay, really important to make sure you burnish these well to make sure that they stick. Okay. The adhesive sheets are sticky, but because this is such a limited area that you've applied the adhesive to, you do have to burnish it. So what I like to do is actually turn it over and just sort of burnish it from the back, and that way you make sure you get good adhesion. Okay, so then I'm going to take my snips and I'm going to trim off those little bits of snowflake that are overhanging. So we'll just trim them off and get rid of them. And same thing on this side. Okay, so now we have our card, or our background rather, and then I'm going to add a little bit of ribbon. So here I have some of the beautiful Seaside Spray metallic ribbon. This is from the First Frost, or Frosted, I think it's called First Frost, Fancy Frost, something Frost, sweet. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just take a piece of a glue dot and adhere the end of the ribbon to the back of my panel. And trim it. So this is about, I don't know, probably a 4.5 inch piece of ribbon. I like to just work from the spool because then I don't waste anything. So I'm just adhering that bit of ribbon to the front of my card. Okay, now before I do anything else, I'm going to go ahead and glue this onto my card base. So my card base is a piece of Highland Heather cardstock. It is cut to 4 1/4 by 11 inches and scored in the middle at 5 1/2. I'm going to fold my card base in half along my score line. And then I'm going to go ahead and adhere my background panel to the front of my card. Okay, so your adhesive does not really matter what adhesive you use. I like Fast Fuse, which I know we don't carry anymore, and I'm painfully aware we don't carry it because my supply is running very low, and I'm getting very anxious about what I'm going to do for adhesive once it runs out. Okay, so we good that far? All right, now we need to do our little label. So this is actually one of the stitch nested label dies. Okay, I have trimmed it off right. I put in my trimmer right where the angle happens. So I basically cut that much off of this end. Okay, so now I have a partial label, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp a few more snowflakes onto my label. So this is using the same Seaside Spray. So I'm going to add a few over here and a few up here, just like that. Then I'm going to bring in my Highland Heather ink. And again, I have performed stamp surgery. So here is this Happy Everything stamp. So again, I've cut off everything. So I just have the word happy somewhere. There it is. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp that onto my label. Okay, so we're going to put it, I don't know, let's say right about here, and hope and pray that it is relatively straight. That's not bad. Okay. All right. Now I have some die cut words. So these are die cut using the wishes for everything, wishes something wishes dies in the annual catalog. You'd think I would know these things, wouldn't you? So I have cut one from Seaside Spray cardstock and one from silver foil, and I'm actually going to layer them, offsetting them just a little bit. So again, I've used some of the adhesive sheets on the back of my die cuts. It's not necessary, it just makes things a little quicker and easier. So I'm going to go ahead and stick down my Seaside Spray. Now I have this little teeny tiny dot on here, and I've left it there for a reason. It's because it is the dot on my eye in Christmas. So this little itty bitty bit I actually rescued from the die when I cut it and stuck it on there so that I wouldn't lose it. Okay, so that's just a little tip. If you're worried about losing the dot on your eye, just stick it to your die cut and then it's easy to find. Okay, so my blue one is on there. I'm going to do the same thing with the silver. Peel off my backing. And now this time I'm going to offset it slightly so I can see a little bit of that blue peeking out from behind it. Okay, so I'm just going to carefully place that and stick it down. Okay, and then again, there's my little dot for my eye. I saved this one too. And I'm going to do the same thing, just press that onto there. Okay, so there's my Christmas. Okay, so far so good? All right, we are almost there. Now this is going to go onto the front of our card. I'm going to line up the edge of my label with the edge of my sponge piece. So it's going to go right like that. Okay, and I want my label to be, so the point is centered on the ribbon. All right, so we're going to use a couple of dimensionals, and we want to make sure we just put our dimensionals along the top and bottom edge. That way it doesn't get in the way of the ribbon and bump up and sit unevenly. I've still got little white bits stuck to me from these snowflakes. They kind of get everywhere, those guys. All right, so we're going to go ahead and stick this on. So again, I just want to make sure my little point is lined up, centered, and we're going to press that into place just like that. Okay, we're going to add a bow. So this is your bow tying lesson for this week. Okay, so I'm going to take my ribbon. I'm holding it between my index and middle fingers on both hands. I'm going to pinch and create loops between my thumb and my index finger. Notice I didn't twist the ribbon at all. It is still lying flat. Okay, so I have 2 loops. I'm going to take my left loop, cross it over the right, and then bring it through that little hole and pull. And then when I adjust my loops, I end up with a quick, easy, and pretty little bow. Okay, so one of the keys to a good bow is having the knot pulled nice and tight. Okay, and that way it won't slip on you when you have it on your card. I'm going to just trim my tails at an angle. We'll slide that out of the way, and then we're going to just add our little bow right there. So I'm going to press the knot into a glue dot, just like that. Okay, there's my bow. Now you'll notice on my original, I had a couple of extra snowflakes. So these are die cut also using the same die set, the Christmas layers. They're that die set includes the ones that are joined together, but then it also includes some little individual snowflakes, which are really cute. So we're going to add this guy up here just because I did this one a little bit lower than on the original. And then we'll add another little guy. Maybe we'll put this little guy down here. And we got another larger one. So there's a larger snowflake and a smaller snowflake in the individuals in this die set. And then of course you have the ones that are all joined together. So we'll add this guy up here. And I think I have one more little guy. Yes, I do, on my sheet here. And let's put him, we'll put him, I don't know, where should we put him? We'll put him up here. Just like that. Okay, there we go. Super quick and easy. Easy to create a cool sponge background. Okay, and then adding that layer of stamped snowflakes really adds a lot of texture and interest to your card. Okay, so there's your finished Christmas card. I'll bring in the other 2. Let me just clear away some of my mess here. So we have our springtime card and we have our fall card. So it's amazing that just one stamp set will give you that kind of versatility, right? So we have our Seasonal Wreath stamp set, which coordinates with the All-Around Wreath dies from the annual catalog. Now I'm just going to quickly show you where you can find the Christmas layer dies, which are part of the I used on that card. So it's on page 16 in the catalog. Let me just flip to that page. There we go. Okay, so it is bundled with the Itty Bitty Christmas stamp set. All right, now this stamp set I have used a ton, because it's got awesome Christmas sentiments. Honestly, if this is the only Christmas sentiment set you have, you'll be in good shape, okay? So there are the Christmas layers dies, all right? So there are other dies included. So we have the snowflakes, we have this sort of poinsettia or star look, and then we have this vine, which I have used a ton. I like it for fall, actually, but you can see there's a sample in the catalog here where they've done it up as mistletoe. But you can get that bundled with the stamp set. Okay, and when you buy the two together, you get them at a 10% discount. Okay, all right, that is it for me today. I am off to a meeting tonight. I hope you guys have a great evening. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next week for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. Bye for now.